That's you know. But next week we might be moving on to Northerners. That Sammy could be involved in the conversation. You know,
there are key words when talking to Geordie men about football. Keegan and Shearer. That's it. Then you're in. You're ingratiated. The amount of children in Newcastle who are called Keegan or Shearer is phenomenal.
First name?
Oh yeah.
No.
And the Keegans have just had a revolution because he's back.
Yes.
And that's I don't know anything about football. I know he's back. I can join in someone's joy there. That's all you need to know. It's key things, isn't it?
Keywords.
Okay, so just one more stock phrase that could get me out of trouble in any given scenario.
And Smith must score, Brian.
Smith must score,
Brian.
Brian.
It's a famous bit of commentary from a 1980 Cup final. Right. Brian Moore said, and Smith must score, and he didn't. And famously, the team went on to lose.
Right.
And it's kind of a cult. It'll show that you're in there.
It's interesting. Good. I better write that down. What's it called? What is it again?
And Smith must score.
All right.
Just say that loud and jolly. Nudge him in the ribs.
Sure.
He'll know what you're going on.
Brilliant. All right. Yeah. And then pass me a shooter.
Yes.
So Dan, you say you've got no reason here, no purpose. You've already proven that statement wrong.
Yes.
But more importantly, what musical choice have you got?
Well, you know how Duffy is going to take over the world. She is unstoppable. There's nothing we can do. She will dominate all of us. Her new song is a kind of a Northern Soul stomper, and I sort of liked it. But I thought to myself, there's so many great Northern Soul records out there and I don't think I've ever brought one in, and they're sensational, just great short nuggets of brilliant pop soul, and this is one of those. It's called Sock Some Love Power To Me.
Good. That's Tiny Dan's musical choice on this week's Steve Show, BBC Six Music with me, Steve Merchant, and my little gang here. What was the tune, Dan?
It's Sock Some Love Power To Me, and it was by Lee Rogers.
Thank you very much. And where might I find that?
Well, the beauty of Northern Soul is that you're never going to unearth all these singles from dusty garages and things. There's a host of compilations available. That one's on one called Northern Soul Songs.
Right, brilliant. So that sounds like one that I'd buy in a petrol station.
Yeah.
I heart Northern Soul.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But they're all brilliant.
They are, indeed. Listen, there's a good album which is worth checking out. It's called Here Comes the Wind. It's by Envelopes, or Envelopes. How are we saying that, Rufus? Quick.
Envelopes is the posh.
Thank you very much indeed.
And envelopes is the common.
Thank you. Good. Take your pick there, decide which one you feel most comfortable with. It's released 18th of February, and I don't know, something about it has really charmed me here. It's got a whiff of the Pixies. It's got a little droplet of B-52s, and here's track 1 from the forthcoming album. Here Comes the Wind is the name of the album. The track is Party. Releases a single shortly, and then taken from the forthcoming album released on the 18th of February. Here Comes the Wind. That's Envelopes, and the tune is Party. Here's Paul and Andre. They got some news for us
on digital.
From 1985, Kate Bush and Cloud Busting. It's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music with me, Steve Merchant, and my little gang of cronies here. We've got Tiny Dan,
hello,
Posh, Super Posh Rufus, and Hassani from the North. We have to reduce everyone to one simple, identifiable Viz-style characteristic in order for the average Six Music listener to be able to grasp the heady concept of a personality, which is very difficult to grasp. In the modern fast-paced world, probably people watching this whilst also downloading ringtones and probably watching Pimp My Ride. So they got so much to worry about and contend with. We have to make things easy for them. We are remixing the Steve Show for 2008 so that it can be more it can fulfill the BBC's public service remit and help you, the listeners, with your life. I know it's very tricky in the modern world when you are, as I say, doing all those multitasking things, to be able to formulate an opinion on perhaps, a forthcoming Salvador Dali exhibition. Hopefully in future weeks there will be such an exhibition. Rufus, I imagine you'll be straight down there. You'll hot-foot it to the Tate Modern, where you will formulate an opinion on melting clocks.
I will be all over it, Stephen. I will appear in the studio in full costume, waxed moustache, raised eyebrows, crutch.
So perfect.
Yeah. Well,
excellent. I look forward enormously to that. Fingers crossed there is a Salvador Dali exhibition. I think
let's hope.
We can only absolutely hope. But last week we were chatting to Sammy, of course. She's a mainstay of the show, and we realised really, there's a danger this show can become laddish, and that if you recall, Sammy was recruited in the old days to add a bit of female perspective, chiefly on new music. But since then we've got perspectives on all sorts of things. Last week, of course, we got a perspective on a moisture What was the thing?
It's a damp meter.
A damp meter. For those of you that didn't tune in last week, I don't know if the Listen Again feature is still available, but Sammy shared stories. I'm not going to go into detail again because, as you recall, it was graphic and horrific at times.
I wouldn't go as far as to say it was horrific.
It was horrific. It was like something from, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's sort of very much something they'd have done in an early draft and thought that's
Just
too
taking things
horrific.
too far, yeah.
But yeah, you had a damp meter, something for analysing if your walls are full of damp, which Sammy then decided to put about her body in order to identify where she's damp. A lot of people, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people would say I could figure out where that dampness is on the human body without having to get a damp meter out.
It was idle curiosity and mainly for the entertainment of my mother, who's
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. It was for the entertainment of your mother. I mean, rare is it that a conversation in my house would turn round to, Mum, I know you're looking a bit bored. Antiques Roadshow's finished. Here's a little damp meter. Shall we put it about our bodies? I should point out that this wasn't in the studio either. This is something you did up north, and then just merely the anecdote.
brought the tale
You just brought the anecdote down. But anyway, so I apologise for that. But we hope that you would offer a female perspective on life, and to that end, I was hoping you would perhaps do something terribly, terribly feminine. Be it the coalface of womanhood, as it were, that you can impart to us.
I couldn't decide whether to go for an eyebrow waxing or a wash and blow dry. I settled for the wash and blow dry. I thought the hairdressers is the hub of gossip,
Yes.
lady and otherwise. Ended up with someone. I was explaining, I work on a radio show and just chatting about things. I'm an actress, blah blah blah. And he said, I've got relatives in the industry. My cousin, for example, is a singer. Used to be in the Smiths, Morrissey. And I was like, what? No.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was the truth, and or if he's a liar and he's picked the most bizarre lie.
Yeah. Did you mention it was a new music station?
I did, yeah. I don't know if that's why he made it. Maybe with every person he fits the celebrity to their job.
Did you not probe with more sort of...
I just didn't know where to go from that. Because he seemed to be kind of shrouding it in mystery, and I don't like to talk about it, his
Sure,
family.
much like Moz himself.
I thought, that's a bit suspicious, surely.
Moz, did he have any of the sort of Moz-like trappings? Was he sort of flouncing around
He was,
the hair salon,
I'd say he was
perhaps slightly
overweight.
depressive?
and he was definitely Irish.
He was overweight and definitely Irish.
That's
Well, Moz,
all
of course,
I
is
can-
famously
exactly,
Irish.
Yeah, that's why there was bits of it I thought maybe, but then later, when he was going for the set, he also told me he was one of the last people to see Betty Davis alive. Not sure whether that
One
was
of
true.
the last people to see Betty Davis alive.
Yeah.
What did he do? Smother her?
I really don't know. It was
Goodness
just one of
me.
those when you're just kind of nodding,
Yeah.
hoping someone's going to stop. It
So
was
that's what's
scary.
going on at the forefront of womanhood
Well, I was
at the
desperately
moment.
trying to read a magazine at the same time because I thought, well, that's where to
Yeah.
get your gossip from, because there wasn't many women about, and I was trying to eavesdrop onto conversations, heard something awful about hysterectomy, so I picked up Heat. And it was one of those things where I formed my own opinion. I used to buy Heat religiously, 3 years without missing a copy, and just decided to stop one day purely because I was bored.
Yeah.
And now I realise why. There's about 6 to 8 pages in this magazine dedicated to Britney Spears.
Yes.
Crying on the curb, there's some pictures of her nipples.
Yeah.
The whole magazine opens with, she's been taken in and it's great, good luck, get well soon, Britney. It's people like
Yeah,
you.
you've got paparazzi
Yeah.
photos over 6 pages.
I mean,
You're saying,
honestly,
wish you
her
well.
nipples are in the back of this magazine somewhere.
What, as a
Shit.
giveaway? I wouldn't be at all surprised. But I think what's interesting with the Britney Spears case is the fact that now there was one of the British paparazzi, not the one that she was having an affair with, but another one, who actually washed his hands of it, said, you know what, when a paparazzi says, I think we've overstepped the mark, you know that something's in real, real trouble. So we should move on from Britney. I don't want the woman, here in the show, I know she's a big Listen Again, uses the Listen Again feature. Don't want her to get, tip over the edge.
Well, it's just a bit, you feel bad about yourself, don't you, for viewing these people's lives, and that's why I put Heat down and picked up Pick Me Up.
Sure.
Which is
now these are the ladies' magazines I've always been fascinated by, the ones that always have headlines like I married my dead husband's ghost.
The complicated the better, I think.
Yeah.
I can't stop fancying my dead husband's ghost wife's kids. all
Yeah,
that
exactly.
stuff, yeah.
What? Yeah. And so what are the big stories currently on Pick Me Up?
I mean, there's a lot of death. I was hoping it would be a bit lighter. And I was getting a bit depressed and reading through the pages. What could possibly make it worse than a double-page spread by Jeremy Kyle. He's honest,
Wow.
he's direct, and he's here.
He has an agony uncle column.
And it's awful, and he writes it. I hope he does write it, and it's not someone using his vernacular, but he writes it in the way he speaks. So at the end of one of these things, and he's talking about a woman who's been dumped, and it's really sad. The very end of this says, "Hang in there and believe what I'm saying. Sweetheart, please." That's just
Goodness
awful.
me, the new
Profoundly
Kilroy.
insincere.
Even better than that, which I can't take seriously, is a photo psychic. What does the
A
future...
photo psychic?
Yeah, photo psychic, a little picture of a Leica there.
So you
What-
send in a photo and they extrapolate your future from it.
Well, the strapline is, Steve, what does the future hold for you or your pet? Ask Mystic Mary.
Sure, of course. You've got to send a photo into that.
In Pet's Corner this week, this is Dave. He and my cat Betty were best friends, but recently he stopped coming over and she misses him. Can you tell me if he's alright? And Mystic Mary's response is, yes, I believe Dave's okay.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That's good news,
That's excellent news.
Utterly bizarre. I mean, they are entertaining, these magazines, but crikey, they take you on a roller coaster of emotion.
I like the cover of Love It magazine, which you've brought in here. I mean, this is just on the cover. Imagine once you actually get inside, on the cover, crime, terrorised for being a Teletubby. I don't even know what that story is. And shock, no sex, as I don't have a vagina. That's particularly... The tease inside is, Alison had fallen for Keith, but what would he think of her shocking secret? Well, he'd be mightily disappointed, I imagine. Yeah, and when you just flip through the pages and you just see a headline like, I tried to hack off my own head, you know it's going to be a dynamite read for, what is it, 70p? 65p. Well, it's interesting you bring up the subject of journalism, and this is obviously the important end of journalism, but journalism is something I'm particularly fascinated by. It's something that I think is very vital to the lifeblood of any nation, which is why someone we'll be talking to after the next piece of music has interesting insights into the modern world of contemporary journalism. I feel this could be a water cooler conversation.
Get everyone going for the Sport Relief Mile.
It's a Steve Show, BBC Six Music with me, Steve Merchant, and before the trail we heard Elbow and a new single, Grounds for Divorce. Now, as I said earlier, the Steve Show 2008 now has a public service remit. We are trying to supply you, the listener, with water cooler conversation topics, big stories, things that are happening in the world that you should be aware of. And for me, one of the water cooler books of late is a book called Flat Earth News, written by an award-winning journalist called Nick Davis. And I suppose, sort of in summary, it sort of blows the lid open on the world of modern journalism. It's a subject, for some reason, I'm particularly fascinated with, and Nick is on the line. Nick, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, mate. I wonder if you could just tell us, sort of, I don't want to sort of summarise the book for you. What was the sort of aim with the book?
I'm trying to explain why it is that we put out so many stories that are false. And the thing is, if you say to people outside the media, you can't believe everything you read, okay, people sign up to that pretty quickly, although they might not understand quite how bad it is. But if you say why, they seem to think it's all because our proprietors, people like Rupert Murdoch, lean down from on high and tell us poor peasants what we should do, i.e. to write lies. And there is a little bit of that, and I've gone into some of it in the book, but that's nowhere near the whole explanation. So I've tried to explain exactly what it is that goes on in newsrooms that leads to us pushing out false stories.
When I was sort of younger, and I watched, like many other people, All the President's Men, and it's the dramatisation of Woodward and Bernstein, you know, bringing down a president through kind of good sort of dogmatic research and getting their notebooks and their phones and everything going. And in those days, I used to sort of, you know, like many people, I think of journalists as being, you know, sort of bastions of free speech and everything. And now there sometimes seems to be an opinion of journalists as sort of one rung below child molester. Sort of, where did things go wrong? What's happened? How has people's perception of journalism been soured so much?
Okay, funny enough, it was All the President's Men that made me become a journalist in the first place. But the very short story is that we've been taken over by huge corporations, they've sacked masses of journalists, they've hugely increased our output, nobody really has... So, because what happens is that we sit there chained to our desks, and we recycle PR stuff that's from the public relations industry. So you remember a week or so ago, there was a big story that everybody used about police rescuing a group of Romanian children who'd been trafficked into this country. You remember?
Right, yes.
Okay, so there's two interesting things about that. One, police go around the country knocking down doors all hours of day or night, every day of the week. Why did that particular police raid become a story? Because the police press officers took journalists along on the raid. They decided that should get publicity, so we went along with it, because that makes the story easy. Second thing, was the story true? It was false. 48 hours later,